Welcome to Will It Build, the series where I take your builds from my YouTube comments and Discord server and put them to the test to see if they are the real deal. If it's solid, then I'll gift you 1,000 silver, and if it's really something special, you'll be featured in a dedicated build video for your submitted build. So comment yours below so we can answer the question, will it build? Welcome to Will It Build episode 5. We're doing a solar build. So I got, you know, we got the red lightsaber. Looks kind of like orange, but yeah, pulled this one from the Discord server, which by the way, if you want to submit your builds, just go to the Discord server, linked in the description, and put them in the Will It Build chat or drop them in the YouTube comments below. We have got one from Ryuga called WARSAT Online, which is a very cool name for a build. Ryuga describes this as a fun solar warlock build taking advantage of the rain of fire automatic reload on weapons that can do a good job of abusing it. We see right here they recommend a couple of weapons, obviously using the rain of fire exotic, got a bunch of abilities that they recommend. Let's put it all together and let's see how it performs in some relatively difficult endgame Destiny content. I saw that they recommended Heat Rises and Icarus Dash. Obviously Icarus Dash is going to be very important for this build because of how Rain of Fire works, which for those who don't know how Rain of Fire works, when you do your air dodge, which is Icarus Dash, you reload all of your weapons. So not just the one you're holding, but literally every weapon in your inventory, which is pretty cool. I think in theory that would allow you to cycle through a shot of all three of your weapons and then Icarus Dash, and then you can shoot a bullet out of all three again if you have weapons that work well in that fashion. Also looks like that when you air dodge, you improve the effectiveness of your fusion rifles and linear fusion rifles, and final blows with those weapons make you radiant, which again is a 25% damage buff, which can be pretty impactful. I'm not sure if they recommended those types of weapons for this build today, but we'll see. So of course, we're using Icarus Dash to synchronize with this, and I believe they recommended Heat Rises because, as they say, on consuming your grenade, this gives you a second Icarus Dash per 4-second cooldown, enabling 2 free reloads per 4 seconds instead of just 1 to kind of play a little bit better into that Rain of Fire, Icarus Dash, spam, reload loop. And for that reason, they recommend the Firebolt grenade because it has the fastest possible cooldown, so we can continuously eat it for Heat Rises. Otherwise, they say you can go Healing Grenade and some more difficult content. I personally want to try Firebolt, and then I see here we have Phoenix Dive for ×2 restoration with Heat Rises. We'll look more into how that loop works in a little bit. But let's get the rest of the fragments first. We've got Searing, so that melee can be used to reproc Radiant and create fire sprites to help our grenade regeneration. That makes sense to me. Ember of Empyrean, so that our solar weapon kills are able to refresh restoration ×2, which makes sense because all of the weapons that they recommended are solar. Boom, Empyrean locked in right there. And then Ember of Solace, so that we have a greater window of time to extend restoration ×2. So let's go find Ember of Solace and we'll lock that in. I do want to say ahead of time, I think I am going to swap Solace out for something else. I am going to give it a chance first, but later in the video after we do our first run, I'm going to probably swap it for something else, and I'll explain why I'm going to do that when we get there. Looking at the mods, it looks like they are recommending a solar siphon as well as a heavy ammo finder, which, remember, since we're on a solar subclass, we can actually just do harmonic siphon, which opens the opportunity for us to do another helmet mod. Probably go whatever we want. We could go double siphon so that we make bigger orbs and get more well of radiances. We can go heavy ammo scouts. We can provide some ammo to our teammates. Floor is up to you on that one. On the gloves, it looks like they're recommending heavy-handed and impact induction. Impact induction makes perfect sense to me because we want to get our grenade up as much as possible. So dealing melee damage, giving us a chunk of our grenade back so we can throw our grenade a lot and so we can use it to eat Heat Rises. I like that. Heavy-handed, I'm not entirely sure about though. Powered melee final blows create orbs. I feel like we're not going to be getting a ton of powered melee kills, but I might be proved wrong, so we'll see how it goes. Looks like on the chest, they're recommending Charged Up and Damage Resistance mods, so I already have a solar one. I'll just throw on another Harmonic Resistance. On the boots, they're recommending Solar Weapon Surges, which makes sense because this is a very solar weapon-centric build. And then on the class item, they're recommending Reaper, as well as a Time Dilation, which makes perfect sense because that will give us longer durations with our solar weapon surges. Here's the full mod layout for anyone who wants to take a screenshot real quick, and then I'll also pull up their specified fragments, aspects, and abilities layout. Once again, though, I do want to say that I am probably going to fiddle with these a little bit. We'll see where we end up. In terms of weaponry, they recommended 3 different weapons. The first one I want to start out with is Devil's Ruin, which is kind of interesting. So we're going to try out Devil's Ruin first, see how it goes, and then we'll try out the other 2 weapons. Let's go ahead and max out our ammo real quick and head on down. to Sepulcher. Yeah, must complete the Lost Sector at least once. Okay, we'll go ahead and do it. Okay, so step 1, we're going to go ahead and eat the grenade to give us heat rises. And if we get airborne kills, it'll extend the duration of heat rises. It looks like it extends the duration by maybe 10 seconds for every airborne kill that we get, so that's good to know. The next step is that we want to melee an enemy and then Phoenix dive so that we get Radiance and Restoration. And then we start killing enemies so that we increase the durations of Restoration and Radiant over on the left side of my screen, because all solar weapon kills and solar ability kills will, of course, extend that thanks to the Ember of Empyrean. And then I think the main idea is that we're going to start floating, use the laser beam, and then every time we Icarus Dash, we obviously reload the laser beam. Oh, but I ran out of my heat rises, but it's okay, because Firebolt is such a fast cooldown grenade that we have it back by the time our heat rises runs out. We can immediately just eat it real fast to re-proc it. Another thing, too, is we can go ahead and cook these knights with rockets as well. It's not just the Devil's Ruin that we have to use. And remember, it said that Devil's Ruin reloads every single weapon. So theoretically, if we were to, I don't know, shoot both of our rockets and then shoot our grenade launcher and then shoot this, and then we did Rain of Fire, boom, everything is reloaded, which is pretty cool. And as you can see here as well, we have armor charge 4 stacks of it because of our charged up buff, which gives us a solar weapon boost ×2, which is a 17% damage buff, which is pretty solid. We're then going to go ahead and proc heat rises again, but we don't have our restoration buff. So we're gonna go ahead and do that, kill that guy immediately. Boom, now we have restoration ×2 for 12 seconds and radiant for 12 seconds. And then all we have to do is stay airborne and kill enemies. And as I said before, my suspicion was that if you get airborne kills while under the effects of heat rises, you get your melee back, which if you look at my melee icon, that is 100% true. I mean, that thing comes back super quickly, which is awesome because it means we are always going to have Radiant, even if we're not always killing enemies. I feel like I'm not utilizing the Icarus Dash part of this quite as much as I should be, though. I think partially the reason for that is because these are just a bunch of squishy enemies and I'm not really needing to constantly reload too much, but I'm trying to like rewire my brain right now to be like, okay, use your Icarus Dash. Use your Icarus Dash. So what I'm noticing is when I Icarus Dash, it immediately just kind of plops me back down to the ground. So what I have to do is I have to go airborne for heat rises, then I can laser beam, Icarus Dash, but right after the Icarus Dash, I have to press the jump button again to reactivate my boost jump. Something important to note if you're going to give this one a try for yourself. You do kind of feel like a WARSAT, which is what the build was named. They said this is the WARSAT online build. You feel like you're like a satellite roaming around the planet, or like in orbit sort of, because you're just constantly airborne and floating around thanks to heat rises, and you're just absolutely cooking everything. So now we've officially beaten that on the normal difficulty. Now we can run up and go do it on legend difficulty, which I'm curious to see how this build will hold up in legend difficulty. Okay, legend Lost Sector, power level 1830. We are power level 1827. So you might be a little stronger than I. So results may vary. Depending on what your light level is, I'm a little low for the Lost Sector, but it's okay. All right, again, step 1, heat rises. And then we want to get an enemy weak, melee class ability, and then start cooking so we can get all of these buffs procced. Okay. And we don't always have to do the laser beam, I suppose. And then I forgot that we get our melee back from this so quickly. And we have Radiant, so I can shoot my rocket at this guy. And even though there's obviously no such thing as anti-barrier rocket, it'll pop the shield. And again, this is a Legend Lost Sector. I kind of feel invincible right now because I have restoration ×2 while I'm airborne. And all I have to do is continuously get kills. And this is what I'm really looking... Oh, yeah. And I could have dodged again and fired a 4th rocket if I wanted to, because remember, under the effects of heat rises, I can Icarus Dash twice before it goes on cooldown. So I feel like this is a build that is a little complicated to use and complicated to execute, especially in higher end content. But I think it's one of those builds where if you put the time into it and you put the practice into it and, you know, you have that sense of mastery, I think this could be one of the coolest and most engaging builds in the entire game. So I kind of want to clear the Unstoppable Ogre before we do anything. Oh, there's a regular Ogre. We do have some Thrall, though. So I wonder if we can eat this grenade and kill some of the Thrall. That'll get our melee back. Nice. I really want to get Restoration, is my thing. I didn't kill him in time. That's the one downside to this in higher end content, is you really do have to prep the enemies before you start getting ready to execute your Restoration buff timers and your Radiant buff timers. Otherwise, your buffs are going to run out before you can start extending them, which again, that goes into kind of the part of this build where it does require, I think, a bit of practice to have it down on, you know, Ironclad. But I think once you do get there, so like, for example, right now, boom, now I have Restoration ×2 for 6 seconds. It's just all about prepping the enemies. All about prepping the enemies. And now we can nail this guy. Get absolutely cooked. I kind of messed up the kill there a little bit, but interesting. So I finished him. I finished him. And it increased the duration of my Radiant and my Restoration, presumably through the Ember of Empyrean, which makes me think that, I guess, finishers count as elemental final blows. So here's what I want to talk about involving the Ember of Solace that I kind of alluded to earlier in the video. I think the reason that they recommended the Ember of Solace is so that we get bigger initial buff timers, so that we have more time to kill enemies to extend the durations of those timers. For example, if I run up here, keep in mind I do have the Ember of Solace on right now, and I melee that enemy, I get 12 seconds of Radiant compared to the typical 8, I believe, is what I would normally get. And similarly, if I pop this grenade, I get Restoration ×2 for 5 seconds. Now, if I take off the Ember of Solace, those timers will change. But I don't think it changes the timers that significantly that it makes Ember of Solace worth running over some other options. So, now that I don't have Ember of Solace on, melee that guy, I get Radiant for 8 seconds instead of 12. I know it jumped right up to 12, but that's because of the Ember of Empyrean. And if I do the Restoration, I get Restoration ×2 for 4 seconds as opposed to 5. So I get -1 second on the Restoration ×2 before I can start killing enemies to refresh it and get it up to 12. And I get -4 seconds on the initial Radiant buff. I feel like sacrificing that is worth it if it allows me to come over here and put on the Ember of Singeing. Your class ability recharges faster when you scorch targets, which happens every single time that you hit them with Celestial Fire, and every single time that you hit them with a Fireball Grenade, and every single time that you even hit them with the class ability itself, because Landings does a little Fire Pulse that scorches the targets. And the reason I like this a lot is because now we don't have to sacrifice any of our mods, and we now have a way to continuously refund a ton of class ability energy, so that if we ever run out of our Restoration, we always have our class ability available to re-proc the Restoration ×2 and get it ramping and stacked up. Other than that, I do kind of want to change around some of the stuff we got going on here. I want to try out some of the other weapons they recommended, so let's go ahead and take Dead Messenger for a whirl. Typical, and I actually want to switch my Dead Messenger to Solar. So now we're going to do this. Oh, I have a feeling this is going to be real nice. Might be worthwhile to have a special ammo finder if you decide to do this, but I have a good feeling about this one. Oh my god. Yeah, this is maybe a bit out of control. Oh, I forgot I can do that too. Okay, with Dead Messenger, this is a problem for them, for the Hive, for the bad guys, all of the enemies. Not a problem for you. You're going to be having a very fun time. Yeah, with Dead Messenger, this thing is awesome. I highly recommend Dead Messenger for this if you're trying it out. I do want to hop out though real quick and put on the final weapon, because I don't want to make this too long. And the final weapon that they recommended was Eyes of Tomorrow. And As far as I can tell, they recommended it for a very specific reason. That reason is that defeating 4 or more combatants in a single volley increases the damage of the next volley and refunds ammunition. But what they told me in their post is that the problem is that the ammunition gets refunded to the reserves, not into the magazine of Eyes of Tomorrow. So you still have to reload it before you shoot your next shot. So the idea here is that you can shoot it, kill 4 or more targets, get the bullet back, and then you Icarus dash to immediately stick that bullet right back into the gun. Now the idea is, of course, let's get our buffs stacking before we do anything. So I have a solar SMG here, so I can get a couple solar kills without having to ready up the Eyes of Tomorrow. And now... Okay, so I didn't kill 4 enemies there. Got it right there. There's the +1. Wow. And then, of course, we have Radiance, so we can crack right through that guy's shield. Little finisher action to increase our buff duration. Yeah, that's a good time. I will say that this one probably only works in really ad-dense environments, so you probably can't spam this one quite the same way that you can spam something like the Dead Messenger or the Devil's Ruin. But you're basically a solar AC 130 whenever you are ready to pull out and use the Eyes of Tomorrow with this build. All right, well, the main question of this series is, will it build? And the answer is a definite 100% emphatic yes. Ryuga definitely wins 1,000 silver. And remember, if you want your build to be tested in one of these videos, all you have to do is submit it in the comments below or drop it in my Discord server, Will It Build channel, linked in the description. Make sure you like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.